Hey, what is good, YouTube? What's good, PlayStation Nation? It is your boy Persona of Gaming with Persona and one half of the What's Up PlayStation podcast crew. And I'm back, man, coming back, man, with some more Gotham Knights live reactions. Listen, they've been giving us a lot of information this month, which I'm very happy about. As you know, Gotham Knights is releasing October 25th, 2022 for the PlayStation 5. This is a next-gen only game, which I'm excited about. Honestly, it's about time we got more of those, right? But last week they had released the Gotham Knights building of a brand new Gotham City with 400 years of history on IGN, which I watched it last week. I thought it was phenomenal, but I said I wanted to do a live reactions just to, or I guess recorded reactions, as to say, so that we can, you know, put my thoughts out there and whatnot. And you know, I'm definitely gonna be doing more of these, like as new information comes out. I'm definitely gonna do these like regularly until the game releases. I know that we're supposed to be getting some more Red Hood gameplay this week, so I'm really excited about that as well. But listen, guys, kick back, relax, and I hope you enjoy. And let's get straight into it, guys.
In the 1650s, 5 families left Europe, eventually landing on the rain-swept islands that pepper the mouth of what would one day be called Gotham River. Those families, the Waynes, the Cobblepots, the Elliots, the Arkhams, and the Kanes, would build a colonial fort together and sow the seeds of centuries of dominance in the area. Gotham City was born. The city quickly spread beyond its original bounds, developing 5 boroughs, and in each, one of those 5 founding families would take root. In the early days, the Kanes established themselves on Gotham's natural harbour, now known as Historic Gotham, tying the family to their new country's military might, building ships and weapons of war. By the 1850s, Gotham had become a major trade hub, helped along by the industrialist Cobblepots and their smoke-belching Southside steel mills. Gotham continued to transform over time. In the 1920s, the Elliots took hold of the 20th century's newest means of control, mass media, and built downtown Gotham in a new Art Deco image. By the 1960s, Gotham had truly become a patchwork of industry and architecture. The Arkhams settled in North Gotham, building their famous asylum. Yes, it's in the game, and no, it's not as you've previously seen it. The Waynes, meanwhile, built their billions in New Gotham, helping advance the town into a new technological age. Which brings us to the present day, and the Gotham you'll be exploring as Batman's protégés in Gotham Knights, an open world as soaked in history as it is by neon light and vigilante-friendly shadow. Warner Brothers Games Montreal.
Can we just stop for a second and appreciate that history rundown? Like, yo, man, like stuff like this I really do love, like, you know, the world building and lore and things like that, man. I really can appreciate that type of stuff, man, especially here. I know that Gotham Knights, man, I'm glad that they're showing this off, man, because I think this is very important, not just to the story and to the overall presence of the game, but I also think it's important because I know a lot of people have been saying, like, you know, God, you know, the world doesn't look all that good, or, you know, it's not going to be a whole lot there, or whatever the case may be, which we do know, you know, which we'll learn here in this video. They're definitely putting in a lot of effort into this world, man. It's got me really excited. But let's continue. Shout out to Robin, by the way.
Created that history early in production, a whole new timeline for a whole new version of Gotham City. And it isn't merely window dressing. The timeline informs everything.
Yo, the world looks, yo, real talk, man. Like, I think the world looks great. This shot right here, I think, is very beautiful, a very good looking shot. And they're gonna show in a second, because they're gonna show like the whole map. It's a pretty sizable map, man. It's gonna definitely be a lot of exploring and whatnot to do here.
From the plot, to the gameplay, to the game's biggest mystery, the Court of Owls conspiracy, the team didn't just build an open world to play in, it's truly trying to build a city.
Here we go.
Key to this take on Gotham are those
All right, so let's look at this real quick. This is a pretty beefy map, guys. So they go Penguin right there. I think that might be Commissioner Gordon. I don't think so. It's either Commissioner Gordon or Lucius Fox. I think that's Lucius though. I think that might be Lucius. I don't remember if they said Commissioner Gordon would be black or white. I don't remember that. So that's Lucius. That might be Lucius. That this might be, because this is North Gotham. I think that might be, hey, real talk, that might be Poison Ivy. Nah, there ain't no green in that. Well, she if it is Poison Ivy, she's locked up in Arkham. So it could be. Who knows? Or it might be somebody different altogether. But looking at the size of this map, my God, it is going to be a lot to do here, guys. This is a pretty beefy, pretty chunky map. A pretty chunky map, man, which I'm very happy about. And if we notice up here, something's blurred out. If y'all look up top, y'all see that little blurred out image right there. That might be some spoiler stuff. So they're definitely trying to keep things under wraps, which I can appreciate. But this is a pretty chunky map. I like it.
5 boroughs and the worldview of the families that historically controlled them.
So for us, the 5 boroughs, it started with the families. The families moved there, they built imposing structures within those districts. So then we build around that to where the identity for those districts really is based off of that family.
Within those boroughs, the team tries to tell stories without simply having someone speak them out loud.
If you visit a city in real life, it's hard to tell some of that history. So because we're making a game, really what we want to do is kind of obviously reveal.
Yeah, I love that music that's playing in the background as well, man. That music that music is dope. But yo, listen, Robin, shout out to Robin, man. Robin's movement abilities I think are really dope. And like I said, when I'm looking at the world and whatnot, let me go back a little bit. Like when we're looking at that world and kind of seeing all of that here, man. It looks to me at least, it looks pretty dense. You feel me? It really looks like there's gonna be a lot going on here. And I can definitely appreciate, what the devs are trying to build here. Really, real talk.
Really what we want to do is kind of obviously reveal some of that stuff. So there's a lot of areas that are kind of stuck in time, like even something as, kind of generic as construction, like it becomes interesting when it's halted construction, or it's now abandoned and overgrown, or it's ruins. All those things are more interesting for the player than, just a modern city. So we tried to have a lot of those areas where it's almost stuck in time, so the player can really experience what it was back then.
So, I like what he's talking about, where like trying to maintain that history of Gotham in certain areas and try to make each area unique. I think that's important as well, because, when it comes to a lot of these open world games, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes these open world games can get very bland in terms of its world building, because it's so much. You get what I'm saying? To really build out a unique world like that, it really does take a lot of effort and a lot of time, right? But based off what the developers are saying, I can definitely appreciate them trying to put the effort in to really build out a true Gotham. Like, hearing them speak and seeing what we're seeing, I feel like they're definitely taking their time. They definitely put a lot of time into this world building, personally speaking. One of the other things I wanted to point out here as well, I'm glad that they also showed off this scene here as well, because we're kind of seeing like the Arkham City or Arkham-esque Batman games-esque type of gameplay here, where you're gonna have a bunch of enemies going around and you can fight them all, or you could do stealth and whatnot. I like that as well. I'm glad that they showed that off, because up until now we've really only seen like very controlled environment sections, where like if you're on like a specific mission, or something that's much more linear or much more closed in. So I'm also glad that they're showing a little bit of that open world gameplay that you can potentially encounter as well in terms of combat and certain situations.
A little bit too, and see how the city evolved.
The team has historical and gameplay basis for every new environment. Take the Cauldron, built into the Cobblepot's lower Gotham area.
We always would like to tell a story with every borough, and there's one specific one that is not necessarily related to the family, but is an effect of some of the projects that those families undertook, which was a mining operation that happened in a riverbed. So they decided to wall off 2 sides of a portion in the water, and they dredged it for mining operations. It would attract workers for the mining operation. It was low-cost housing. It remained like actually a slum.
The cauldron's history is written into its walls, with tumble-down buildings and cramped, unplanned streets, all set in the shadow of the more prosperous districts around it. But all of this is a distinct gameplay choice too.
This spot is kind of like a transition area between the financial district and the south side. So we have like two very different themes, while being in a third theme that is very organic, has a complete different way for the player to navigate over. It's a lot more parkouring. So the player always has the choice to pick the best tool and the best navigation verb to be as efficient as possible. And we have different neighborhoods that will give you different experiences.
This interplay of history and gameplay can be seen across the city. The once beautiful Robinson Park is a symbol of the city's decay, but it's also an open space where your usual stealth tactics may no longer work in the same way. The enormous Elliott Center is a literally gilded reminder of the family patriarch, complete with a museum exhibit about the family inside. And it's also a complex, multi-layered bit of vertical level design built to house the Mr. Freeze boss battle later in the game. And it's not just that timeline that acts as history here either. While this is a new take on Gotham, it includes many references to the comic books it's drawing from. Of course, there are buildings you'll know, right down to deep-cut references like Noonan's sleazy bar from Garth Ennis's Hitman series, but the very fabric of Gotham itself acts as an Easter egg in place.
Yo, this looks... Oh my god, man, this looks so beautiful, man. This looks good. Like, I listen, man, I really am excited for this game, and I cannot wait to put time into this. But just hearing the effort that's being put into this world and into this game, and seeing what we're seeing with this world building trailer or preview, I'm very impressed, man. I think this is an awesome showing of how you'll be able to interact in the world so far. I think this is definitely one of their best showings when it comes to this game. This is great.
Perhaps most interesting is that this Gotham has a public history and a secret history. We already know the game will center on the Court of Owls, a shadowy, manipulative group born of the founding families. Gotham itself will reflect that conspiratorial past too.
One of the things that we love about the Court of Owls, aside from the fact that, that it's a new, fresh addition to the Batman canon, is that they represent a threat that is so embedded and so intrinsic to Gotham City that even Batman doesn't know about it. And the notion of a threat that is so intimately tied to a city that he considers to be his city, that he knows like the back of his hand, that he's been patrolling for, literally decades at this point. That's a very intimidating and scary idea. With that in mind, what we knew is that we needed to give you a sense of Gotham's history in order to be able to show all the ways in which the court is embedded in that.
That's actually, I'm glad that he said that too, because to my recent knowledge, I don't ever remember us doing any developers really doing like a true Court of Owls story game, right? So I think the fact that we're getting something like this at this level, at this magnitude, I think is really great. But not only that, I'm excited to see like the story, how this unfolds. Is Batman really dead? Who's, how the Court of Owls played a part in, like, all of it, right? To see all of that unfold, I think it's going to be really great, and really, really, I can't wait for that stuff. But I think on top of that, when it comes to, going back to the world itself, right? Because it's one thing to do the Court of Owls, right? To do a storyline like that and to really build out, flesh something out like that. But I think when it also comes to the actual world itself that you'll be playing in, the fact that they also took notice of that and trying to build it in their image, and again, from what we're seeing so far, I think this is a great showing. I think those two concepts of the Court of Owls storyline and this Gotham City that they're building, I really do think and hope that they both really complement each other tremendously. And honestly, looking at what we're seeing right now, looking through, hearing about this history and seeing how everything is going to play into each other in terms of the world, I think is going to be a really great experience. But let's continue.
that feeling that Gotham is kind of an adversary and that Court of Owls is the embodiment of that, the personification of it.
The phrase commonly used at the studio for this is that they didn't just build up, creating those hugely visible landmark buildings and stories for every new district, but that they also built down.
We started to imagine how the form of the city could be affected by that, and it started kind of helps suggest a geography, an urban geography to the city, going all the way back to like the late 1600s. And then we started to think, okay, well, what were the major events in history that they would have reacted to? You know, is it the Revolutionary War? Is it the kind of exploitation of the West, like the building of the railroads? Like all of these ideas became part of that conversation and allowed us to kind of build layers of accreted history. And we built it up and we built it down. Like we said, okay, what's buried under the city? Like what are the hidden secrets that you can find in the course of investigating the Court of Owls?
Naturally, the team isn't.
That's pretty interesting, because I know one of the things that has been asked quite a bit in terms within the gaming community is, you know, when we saw like the Batgirl gameplay, or when we saw or when we got the news that Gotham Knights was going to be next gen only, and then we saw like, you know, the Batgirl gameplay and stuff like that. I remember seeing a couple people say, oh, well, you know, this doesn't look very next gen and things like that. And, you know, there was definitely a couple of issues, I think, with the Batgirl gameplay. But hearing him explain how the world is being built here, right, where they're not just building a top of the city, but they're also building underneath. And so I think when you look at a city of this size, and again, you know, this is just me kind of going off his words here, if they're really building like an Undercity type of thing as well, you essentially have two different cities that you're really building here. And it's like, you know, when you get into that perspective, that's a lot for a PS4. You know, that's a lot for a base PS4 to handle, right? It's still mind blowing that, you know, Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok is being running on a base PS4, or even a PS4 Pro for that matter. But then when you look at those types of games, we know that those games are having two separate development cycles, where one game is being built from, you know, to take advantage of the PlayStation 5, while the other is obviously being built to take advantage of PS4 Pro. So I think in this perspective of looking at WB Montreal, they had to go next gen. You can't build two separate games with, no, you got to go next gen. You have to. So it makes a lot of sense.
Talking too much about what those buried secrets might be, but we see hints of it as we're shown Gotham's open world. A seemingly nondescript building might be a gang hideout, which leads to a tunnel system that brings you into an exit into Gotham that you would never have guessed at, for example.
We want the Court of Owls to feel like they're involved in everything. If you were to go to a major city in North America, like often they'll build a city on top of another one. Like Chicago, like they had the fire, they just built on top of it because it's not worth like rebuilding, destroying and rebuilding. So what the undergrounds allow us to do is kind of reveal that cross section of the city. So we have areas like that where you drop in, you keep going, and you see things that you didn't know were there, that you didn't know the city was built on top of. And I think that's a really cool element. We try to allow the player to see kind of behind the scenes of the city, go under the surface, and, you know, as well as seeing it from up high from the bigger landmarks.
The result of all this work is that this take on Gotham aims to feel like a legitimate place, not just a sandbox for spandex crime fighting. We've heard before that this will be the largest Gotham ever made in game form, but that's not what the developers are proud of.
We made a very big Gotham City, but what I think is really unique to Gotham Knights is the density of it. Sometimes I will be searching for something or fighting a crime and not realize how close to me something else is happening that I'm going to want to interact with afterwards or before. There's just such a depth of nooks and crannies to explore inside our city, and I think that that's really unique to Gotham Knights.
The idea of a Gotham packed with references, miniature histories, and sinister mysteries is alluring. After all, this is the promise of a town with real backstory, that it's not just the people living there who'll help tell the story, but the city itself. Gotham has been many things to many people. It's appeared in comics, movies, and gaming worlds. It's been reinvented repeatedly, traveling through time with us from block color 40s issues of Detective Comics to the grey monoliths of Christopher Nolan's trilogy. But all of those versions of Gotham have been snapshots of a city in its current form. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Gotham Knights version is that we won't just see the city as it is, but hopefully learn what it's been. We'll be covering Gotham Knights and offering exclusive footage.
Wow. Wowzers. So again, there is a lot there, you know, from what the developers are saying. This is going to be a very dense city. It's the largest Gotham City ever built, in game form at least. And I know that's not something that they don't want to just be known for that, which I get and I understand that. But I also think that how it's being explained and what they're talking about, if it really is going to be as dense as they're saying it's going to be, that's impressive. To build a city of this size and it to be as dense as what they're explaining, that's pretty impressive, man. That's pretty damn impressive, right? So listen, I am excited for this game. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. Remember, guys, Gotham Knights releases October 25th, 2022 on PlayStation 5. I remember this is a next-gen console only. And listen, man, I'm excited. Let me know in the comments if you guys are excited as well. Also, if you did enjoy this reaction, definitely like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And listen, if you want to further support the channel, you can become a member. The link to that is in the description. It's not mandatory, but it is always appreciated. And with that being said, guys, I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all have a great rest of your evening. It's been your boy Persona, and I'm out. Peace.